Something in Michael, the part that had stayed dormant since his grief began, awakened with fierce creativity. He realized Deborah wanted the prestige of his honey without the work. Perhaps it was time for a hands-on beekeeping lesson. Michael retrieved an abandoned hive box from his storage shed and began his masterpiece of misdirection. First, he thoroughly sanitized it, ensuring no actual bees remained. Next, he installed a sophisticated Arduino-controlled system connected to a motion sensor. When triggered, it would activate a high-definition recording of aggressive buzzing that gradually increased in volume. For authenticity, he added a small heating element to simulate the exact 95-degree warmth of a real hive. He lined the interior with beeswax and propolis, the sticky substance bees use to seal their hives, creating the distinctive smell that would convince any amateur this was the real deal. In the bottom compartment, Michael placed 6 jars of his special reserve honey, a dark, intense variety he'd accidentally created when experimenting with buckwheat pollen. It was perfectly safe, but had an acquired taste that most honey connoisseurs found overwhelming on first try. His masterstroke came with the addition of a natural compound called capsaicin-olorosin to select honeycomb sections, the same ingredient used in mild pepper sprays, but highly diluted. Not enough to cause actual harm, but certainly enough to create a memorable tingling sensation when sampled. Michael created an elegant gift basket with the live hive, adding handcrafted beekeeper's tools, a luxury jar opener, and a beautiful card that read, "For the honey connoisseur who appreciates the finer things, your very own premium hive." The bees are docile Italian honeybees, but please open with care in case they're disturbed from transport. Enjoy nature's golden treasure directly from the source. Michael had been a passionate beekeeper for over 5 years, carefully tending to his 3 hives in the small backyard of his suburban home. It wasn't just a hobby, it was therapy after losing his wife to cancer. The gentle hum of his bees and the sweet reward of their honey had become his solace. His unique lavender-infused honey had even won the coveted blue ribbon at the county fair last summer, beating out professional apiaries. The trouble began when Deborah Wilson, the newly elected HOA president, moved in across the street in her pristine white Colonial with matching Mercedes SUVs. Within her first week, she had issued 8 violation notices to various neighbors. During her first HOA meeting, she dramatically waved an EpiPen while declaring Michael's beekeeping a lethal hazard to the community, despite his grandfather clause exemption and proper permits. On a rainy Tuesday, Michael's doorbell camera pinged while he was at work. The notification showed a delivery driver leaving a package, his special honey jars for the Children's Hospital fundraiser. Each jar was hand-painted by kids in the cancer ward and filled with his award-winning honey. But when Michael arrived home, the package was gone. Checking his security footage, Michael watched in disbelief as Deborah, sheltered under a designer umbrella, marched purposefully to his porch in her rain boots. She examined the package, looked around furtively, and then stuffed it into her oversized handbag before strutting away. The timestamp showed she had waited just 15 minutes after the delivery. The worst part, this was the second time. 3 months earlier, she'd stolen jars he prepared for his late wife's memorial service, honey from the hive they had started together. Michael chose the morning of Deborah's exclusive garden brunch, an event she'd been boasting about to the neighborhood for weeks. Important people from the county commissioner's office would be attending, along with the editor of Home and Garden Quarterly, who was considering featuring her backyard. At 8:30 a.m., Michael rang Deborah's doorbell and quickly retreated to his friend Jack's perfectly positioned second-story sunroom across the street. Through high-powered birding binoculars, they watched as Deborah's housekeeper accepted the elegant delivery. 20 minutes later, they observed Deborah examining the gift in her kitchen through the bay window. She read the card with obvious delight, immediately pulling out her phone to take selfies with her sophisticated beekeeper gift for social media. As her first guests arrived, Deborah proudly displayed the hive on her patio table as a conversation piece. "I've been mentoring a local beekeeper," they overheard her telling the county commissioner's wife. "This is actually from my advanced colony." The moment of truth came when Deborah, emboldened by mimosas and attention, decided to demonstrate her expertise by opening the hive to serve fresh honeycomb to her impressed guests. "You'll never taste anything so pure," she promised, prying open the lid. The buzzing started low, then escalated alarmingly. Deborah froze momentarily before dropping the lid with a clatter. "They're just excited," she assured her suddenly nervous guests, though her hands visibly shook. Determined not to lose face, she reached in quickly for a honeycomb section, precisely one of the capsaicin-treated pieces. She sliced it elegantly onto a silver serving tray, taking the first substantial taste to demonstrate its safety. What followed could only be described as spectacular chaos. Within seconds, Deborah's expression transformed from smug satisfaction to wide-eyed panic. The buzzing grew louder as she frantically fanned her mouth, knocking over the mimosa pitcher. "Water," she gasped, as her carefully applied makeup began to run with tears. She lurched toward the hive to close it, triggering the motion sensor again and increasing the angry buzzing to its maximum volume. "The bees are aggressive," someone shouted, sending the garden party into pandemonium. The county commissioner dove under the patio table as Deborah, still gasping from the spicy honey, accidentally knocked the entire hive onto its side. The home and garden editor, capturing it all on her phone for safety documentation, watched as Deborah fled inside, leaving her prestigious guests abandoned on the lawn. Through the window, they could see her desperately drinking milk straight from the carton. Animal control arrived 15 minutes later, responding to multiple panicked calls about a bee attack. The officer methodically inspected the hive before announcing to the lingering crowd of neighbors and mortified garden party guests, "There are no bees here. This appears to be some kind of speaker system." The HOA emergency meeting that evening had record attendance. Deborah didn't show, but her absence didn't prevent a unanimous vote removing her as president. Michael was elected in her place by acclamation. The following day, a delivery service returned all of Michael's stolen honey to his doorstep with a typed note. "I apologize for the misunderstanding. The Children's Hospital received an anonymous donation covering twice the fundraiser's goal." As for Deborah, she listed her house the following week. Neighborhood legend claims that to this day, she checks all gift baskets with a bomb-detecting wand before accepting them, and the faint sound of buzzing can send her into an immediate panic attack. Michael still keeps his bees, and now hosts monthly honey harvest events for the neighborhood children. Attendance is excellent, except, notably, from the residents of Deborah's former white colonial, who report they suddenly developed an allergy to all things related to honey. Michael, still clinging to civility, tried the diplomatic approach first. He knocked on Deborah's door that evening with a copy of the security footage on his tablet. She answered in tennis whites despite the ongoing rain, a tumbler of white wine in hand. "Those bees are a violation," she declared before he could finish his first sentence. "I've confiscated the contraband as evidence." When Michael mentioned the Children's Hospital, her expression flickered momentarily before hardening. "Perhaps you should consider their safety before encouraging dangerous insects in our neighborhood." The next HOA meeting became Michael's battleground. He arrived prepared with the security footage, printed copies of his permits, and even a letter from the hospital about the fundraiser. As he connected his laptop to the projector, Deborah suddenly called for an emergency vote on new landscaping guidelines. Her trio of allies, whom neighbors called the Karen's Council, quickly derailed the meeting with procedural objections. When Michael finally got to speak, Deborah interrupted with a dramatic sneeze. "My allergies are acting up," she announced, glaring at Michael. "Must be residual bee venom in the air." 3 members immediately moved to Agilent for health concerns. The police were no help either. Without proof she knew what was in the package. "It's just your word against hers," the officer explained, barely looking up from his paperwork. The situation escalated when Michael discovered Deborah selling homemade harvest honey at the exclusive farmers market in the next town over, $25 per jar for locally sourced, organic honey, still bearing faint traces of the children's hand-painted designs beneath her elegant new labels.